Justin, Coach said this was one of the closest teams, maybe the closest team he's had, and as far as a team leadership standpoint, he can't remember one better than this one. You are a big part of that. So how important is that part of the game to you?
I think it's extremely important. I think we have a lot of seniors that are coming back, a lot of guys who it's their last year. They really know what it takes to be successful. Me, Carter, Starr, some other guys as well, and guys like JC and Trey who are extreme competitors. I think we're all trying to push everybody in the right direction, and we all know what it takes, and we know that everyone has to believe in it to be successful.
Justin, you made a pretty big jump with your stick last year, and while playing such a defensively demanding position like catcher, how did you kind of work on both at the same time?
So really, you just have to separate the two. Like, you can't have your catching performance leak into your hitting. You can't have your at-bats leak into your catching. And for us, being a good defensive catcher that can lead a staff is the most important thing. So that's really just what I try to dive into, and anything that comes in wise is extra for me.
What was your thought process coming back to East Carolina for another year, having the chance to go pro after last season?
It was pretty difficult for me, but nothing really came about. So coming back here is definitely not a bad option at all. Like, coming back to spend another year with my great teammates and giving it one more shot, I think it's exciting for me.
We've talked a lot about just the pitching staff, and you guys got like Trey at the top, and what kind of goes into catching such a power pitcher like that, who probably relies on you on a strikeout pitch to throw it in the dirt, stuff like that. How do you build
so
that trust?
For guys like Trey, I mean, just catching him, really diving in during bullpens, seeing what he might be working on or what he's struggling with. That's a big part of it. But also, when you catch him so much, especially with a guy like Trey, like, he's developed so much that he's got power stuff, but he knows where it's going. So, like, if you believe he knows where the ball's going and you expect it there, it really makes my job a lot easier just from how good he is.
You got a new faces on the pitching staff this year. Just what's it like as a catcher, kind of transitioning to new faces and having new guys on the staff that you haven't seen before?
So for us, it's always first couple bullpens. You get a good feel over some of the guys. First off, the first thing you get is from their stuff, like what pitches they throw, how it's moving, their action on their pitches. But more importantly, you get a feel of how they react to like different situations. And then when we start with inner squads, that's when you really see how they come to terms with like adversity, if they give up a homer or something like that, or when they're rolling good, you kind of see how their brain works and how their mind takes a little bit.
What do you have to tell those younger pitchers when they let up a homer or walk back-to-back guys, just to kind of to bring them down? Or is it different kind of for each guy?
It's different, but mostly for the new guys, it's always take a big breath, like slow down. There's no need to do anything extra. Like, you've worked really hard to be here. Our coaches have worked with you to get to whatever point we're at. Like, just trusting your abilities, trusting your stuff, and just take a breath and execute every pitch.
What is it like kind of building chemistry with so many different personalities? You got to work with all of them, however they may be. How do you got to go about doing that?
Really just understanding, having those conversations off the baseball field, just knowing them as a person, like knowing them as a friend. You get a lot of information on a lot of guys, and then that leads into how you talk to them on the baseball field. When they know they can trust what you're telling them, or they can trust the kind of like advice you're giving them during a bullpen or something, then they're more willing to take that in and believe in it.
Danny Beal talked about y'all's connection, and what has that been like, having him around and working with him still, and growing up with him, I guess?
Yeah, no, it's awesome for sure. We spent a year over the summer working together, and that was just kind of like me and him. Like, none of the coaches really influenced that. That was just me and him working together. So that's a really big part of like developing that relationship with him. But it just comes down to catching him the most and knowing him as a person and being a good friend of mine. So.
How was he as a roommate?
Oh, he was good. He was good. No worries there.
Justin, as far as the grueling season, last year you called so many games. Is there anything you do in the off season to get ready for such a demanding schedule?
So this off season, I kind of eased back just a little bit, just to get my feet back underneath me, my strength back. But right now in the fall and throughout this spring so far, I've basically been getting treatment, doing mobility for my shoulder and my lower back and my legs basically every day. So I'm just trying to work on some movement stuff and getting some more flexibility in there so I don't have to worry about anything later in the year.
As a Raleigh guy, how excited are you to get that series to Carolina again, get Duke and State as well? How excited are you for those matchups?
Oh, it's always fun, especially going to State, because you get a lot of family there and everything like that. So, I mean, it's a good rivalry too, but it's always fun going back home and playing.
You got Ryan and also Walker back there with you behind the plate. Just what's kind of stood out about those two guys this offseason for you?
For me, I think this is probably the most talented catching core we've had. It seems like it gets better every year. Ryan and Walker both have big arms. They can really throw the ball, and Walker's very talented for coming in as a freshman, and I think with some development he can be a real impact player down the line. Ryan, big bat, can throw the ball really well, can block the ball really well. I mean, just a really solid catching core, and there's a good relationship between all three of us, so we are always bouncing ideas off each other and learning from each other as well.
Cliff talked about all the former catchers on this staff, so I'm sure there's a lot of eyeballs on me critiquing, but also if you need some advice, a lot of guys you can go to. What's that like for you?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I've had the honor of being coached by about 4 or 5 different catching coaches, but basically most of our coaching staff we're former catchers like AK and Coach G, and Blake was a catcher as well. So literally, AK's really helped me with working on understanding the pitchers, knowing how they tick, calling pitches and stuff like that, kind of understanding the sequence. I mean, I've taken a piece from every coach we've ever had here. That's kind of led up to where I am.
What was the last position you played in baseball that wasn't catcher?
In summer ball, I did play some first base. You can ask Danny about that, but hopefully I did well enough for him. I think he might have some beef with me over a play over at first, but in high school it was first, third, or pitching sometimes.
Can't remember which pitcher it was, but they mentioned they take you guys out to eat sometimes, like a favorite restaurant or two that the catchers like to frequent. They take you to.
Yeah, so we have the pitcher-catcher dinner. It should be coming up here soon, so I'm looking forward to that for a free meal from them. But I think last year we went to Nino's, gone to the Rick House once. But yeah, it's always fun. I'll get to see all the pitchers, and they get to give back to their catchers.
Anything else for Justin?
Thanks.